In 2016, the new Mazda CX-9 was launched, and I think because it's got the Kodo design language, it's a peach. Have a look at it. I think the front's particularly successful. The Kodo design gives it nice, slim headlights and a shield grille. Best bit is there's lots of chrome here at the side of the grille and down here under the bumper. But I think these lights look absolutely smashing. All of the lighting on the exterior is LED, and on this top model, the Azami, there's 4 models in all, the headlights are fully adaptive. They come on at dusk and they adjust themselves depending on the car's speed and whether or not there's someone in front, and that means nobody is ever dazzled. Also at the front are the cameras for the autonomous emergency braking. It works between 2 and 80 kilometers an hour, and if it sees something you don't, it'll chuck out the anchors and just about put your face on the windscreen, which is just as well, because obviously that's how rear end accidents happen. At the rear, the LED lights are particularly successful. They look really slim, and there's a nice design language about it that is coherent. The whole car looks smaller and more svelte than the previous incarnation. The back goes up with the touch of a button, and there's some thoughtful touches in here too, like bag hooks on both sides and 200 litres of space. You'll notice the back seats go down 60-40, and when they do, the headrests tilt forward so that the driver isn't having his rear view completely blacked out. There's more thoughtful touches for the third row. There's cup holders, and there's a surprising amount of legroom in the back, even with the second row seats back as far as they'll go. This enormous door has a pull-up shade, and getting in is really easy if you don't bugger up your microphone. You can see the enormous amount of legroom that's here in the back seat. You know, it must be 6 inches or more, and I really like 6 inches. There's another zone here of air conditioning controls for the back passenger, more cup holders and some USB ports and a small tray for your phone in the rear armrest. I especially like the line that runs all the way along the doors, dash and along the side. On the back door, for example, there's aluminium and plastic and leather, although some of that might be MTEX, which is Mazda's artificial leather, but you can't tell. There's piano black and God knows how many other different surfaces, but I think all in all this looks absolutely smashing. You don't really get an idea on the film just how roomy Mazda CX-9 actually is. This is limo size, apart from all of the space in the back. The cabin is laid out beautifully too. There's more USB ports in the front, with a clever double lid on the center console, 2 more cup holders, and the command center for the audio system, the sport mode button, and the dual zone air conditioning controls. I think Mazda has been particularly successful in designing their cabins to look both beautiful and elegant. There's a 360-degree camera, and you can set that to come on so that at difficult areas or when the car gets close to something, that camera will come on. You can see how excellent the top view camera is and how clear the rear view is. Sadly though, the screen is only 7 inches. As I said, the Bose sound system is excellent. There is an awful lot of bass, and you could turn that down if you wanted to. You can adjust it just exactly as you want. But I like big, loud, ballsy sound. And I like big, loud, ballsy performance too. You might think 170 kilowatts is a bit grim in a car that's this big. It weighs 2,000 kilos, but honestly, you don't notice it. The 420 Newton meters of torque gets it moving really fast. Well, relatively fast for a large car. There's a few interesting things to note though. This is, as I say, a 2,000 kilo car, and you can tow 2,000 kilos with 150 kilograms of downward force on your ball. And if that sounds painful, it probably is, but you've got to take that 150 kilos off the payload of the car itself. And this car has a payload of 575 kilos. So the gross vehicle mass is 2,575 kilos, less the 150 kilos of downward pressure on my ball. Make of that what you want. Now you might remember I wasn't fond of the CX-8 which is a slightly smaller version of this car. Again, it has 7 seats, just like this does. But it's got a diesel engine, and Mazda thought it was particularly important to have a diesel variant. I'm not sure I agree with them. I spoke to Mazda the other day and they told me that this car outsells CX-8. Frankly, I'm not surprised. One of the most useful things that I think Mazda's now doing with as many of their cars as humanly possible is they're putting on, oh, get out of my way! Get out of my way! Hyundai gets, oh, they all should be plowed into the earth. Sorry, Hyundai, but they're horrible. You get up to 70 before you know it, and it still feels smooth, and the cabin ambience is calm. Of the 4 models that I mentioned, Azami is the top model, and the top of the top model is the Azami LE, and it has bits of wood and what have you all over it. Frankly, I could do without the bits of wood and pay less money. I could also do without the sunroof. As with all cars, sunroofs tend to be expensive and heavy, and it adds a lot of weight to the top of the car. So unless you really want to stick your head out the top like a dog with its tongue out, I'd give it a miss. Besides, you do that in Australia and you'll get 3rd-degree burns before lunchtime. The steering is unbelievably light. There's also some safety features too. And Mazda's very keen now on making all of its cars as safe as humanly possible. For example, there's active cruise control. And once activated, the cruise control will keep you a safe distance from the car in front. You can also use it for traffic. It will go right down to 0 and then move off again when the traffic moves off. There's active lane control thanks to the electric power steering. That will guide you in the middle of the lane, and also it won't let you change lanes if there's someone next to you. It'll try and steer you back into your own lane. And that works with the blind spot monitoring. I'm just going to put the cruise control on now. I've got it set to 80 and the car will now just keep itself at 80 quite happily. The blind spot monitoring, back to the blind spot monitoring, that will show up a little warning in the heads-up display in front of me and in the mirror on whichever side, should you happen to be looking at the mirror. But in case you're not, in case you're looking straight ahead, it's right in front of your eyes. This heads-up display projects straight onto the windscreen, which I think I prefer rather than the flip-up plastic models. The driver's instruments are all clear and easy to read, and the center part is LCD, and that will display whatever you like. So with the active cruise control now on, the cars in front have slowed down. We've now slowed down to 50 kilometers an hour. Had we stopped, the car would have stopped too. So all in all, there's pretty much nothing that CX-9 does badly. Mazda says they find it luxurious. Do I agree? Probably. Just waiting for that truck to go around the corner so it doesn't cream me. Lovely. We're just coming back from La Perouse, which is the port of Sydney. You might think that CX-9 is going to be a handful in town, but honestly it's not. On the open road it actually feels quite small. Around town it doesn't feel small, but nor does it feel big. By the by, I wanted to mention quickly my Navman. This week I've also been testing a new Navman dash cam, and this is what happened. If you're in any doubt as to whether or not you should buy a dash cam, here's why you should. I was nearly T-boned by an Oriental gentleman in a Porsche, but surprisingly no expletives came. Yeah, that surprised me too. I was plenty cranky. But at least I was protected. Now let's talk about the drivetrain. First of all, the engine, as I said, is a 2.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It gets around 8.8 litres per 100 kilometres, and it puts power to either the front or all wheels through the all-wheel drive system. There are 2-wheel drive versions as well, and they're available in all grades. I think a petrol engine is the way to go, and this is the same one that's in Mazda CX and CX-5. The 6-speed automatic transmission, Mazda claims, has all of the attributes of a DCT, so quick changes, but the smoothness of a CVT, because that doesn't really have any gears at all. I'm not sure I agree with them though that it's as good as an 8 or a 9 or a 10-speed automatic. The top gears in that give you a much lower range of revs at highway speed. Not that this is any slouch, and it is still very, very good on the highway. And you can hear how quick those gear changes are. The thing that really surprises me though is that there aren't more of these as those higher cars, because this is the same size as an Audi Q7, but considerably fewer shekels. It has as much safety gear, probably isn't quite as good a handler, but it's horses for courses. This is geared for people that want a comfortable ride to carry a lot of people and a lot of stuff. And at that, I think it's very successful. There is one thing I want to mention before I go. For much of the week, my tyre pressure warning light has been on. And I've checked the tyre pressure several times and it is just fine. So I'm not quite sure why it's on. That's incredibly annoying, but there you go. All in all, Mazda, a very good job. That's it for this week. Mazda CX-9, one of the nicest cars in Mazda's range, not because of the way it handles or drives, but because of the sum of its total parts. It's safe, it's big, it's bold, and above all, it's excellent value. As always, hit there to subscribe.